Hi, Gabby.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Well, it's a nice and beautiful day, right?
It's gorgeous today.
It's a little bit chilly for most Floridians.
It is, but it's very pleasant. I love it.
I love it too.
Reminds me of home a little bit today.
Great. Talking of home, tell us where you're from originally, where you grew up.
I grew up in West London, and I was born in Cambridge, and then moved to West London when I was about 5.
West London at 5 years old, right? And what was London like when you were growing up?
What was it like?
Yeah.
I think it was very different from what it is today, of course. It was a slower pace of life. You know, when I grew up, there wasn't as much digital. Well, there was no digital, so things were a lot simpler then. Everybody took their time. It was a nice pace of life.
What was your childhood like? Was it, of course, there was no mobile phones, right? No internet. So
So it was outside, playing outside,
Right.
playing with your friends, just finding things to do, you know, that were sort of very creative. Became very creative, and I wrote a lot. I did a lot of writing and poetry and things like that. So sort of brought out my creative side while I was growing up.
Very nice. Was the weather also different in London? What it is now?
Yeah, in fact, when I go back, when we visit, I think, how did I ever exist in this cold weather? Because, you know, when I was growing up, we'd wait for buses and it was freezing, and it was cold. It was cold, and I think you forget how cold it is when you live here.
Did you have your mother and father and siblings all living in one house?
Yes, mother and father.
Okay. How many siblings did
I don't have any siblings.
You're the only
it's
child?
Just me, yeah.
Oh, right. So you had lots of friends, right, to play with?
Yeah,
Okay.
lots of school friends, and so it was good. It was, and then when we were teenagers, we got, you know, jobs to help, you know, have extra money, and so I worked in a hairdresser just around the corner, and you know, in England you can walk everywhere,
Right.
so it's
Streets are smaller, right?
yeah, you can get a bus, you can walk, you've got public transportation, so it's a lot different way of life.
Did you also go to school in London?
I did, yeah, in West London.
What kind of education do you have?
So we have O levels.
Yes.
So I got probably like 11 O levels.
Oh, wow.
And sort of a junior college type of a deal thing, and some business and languages.
And how did you come to America? How did this happen? Was it?
Well, I got married to an American, and that's how I initially came over, and I had my daughter here. And
You were married to an American?
I was initially, yeah, that was my first marriage. And then we got divorced, and I stayed because I raised my daughter here.
Okay. And how long ago was that when you first came?
Oh, that was like 42 years ago.
Which is 1980 something?
Yeah.
Early 80s?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
early 80s.
And you came to which state or which city in America first?
Actually, I was in Indiana for a very, very short time.
What city?
And then Bloomington.
Bloomington is
And
nice though.
Yeah. And then we moved down here because of the weather, and I think my parents wanted to have a retirement home here, and that was the plan. So, always loved the hot weather.
Right. You lived in Bloomington for how many years? in
Oh,
India?
with just like 9 months.
So you lived in Florida for most part.
Most of the time,
Most of the time.
yeah. Barely
And-
remember it.
Oh wow! So, did you go to more school, get more education? Was your education valid here?
No, my education wasn't valid here, and that was one of the frustrations. So I did do a lot of. I taught preschool for a while when my daughter was young, and took lots of sort of extra classes to add on to the education that I had, even though it was tough to get it to sort of transcribe. So I did that. I did that for a while, and then I eventually started a career in retail, and then I was an account executive for a long time, and that was the bulk of my career.
Account executive.
For
Most-
cosmetic line.
Okay. So you switched from teaching to retail mostly because you didn't like teaching, or you wanted more money? What was the
Yeah,
difference?
both.
Yeah, both. Okay.
Both. I mean, I liked it, but it was little kids, and I thought, you know, I wanted to do something completely different. so that's what I got into, and I was very interested in fashion, makeup, and skincare.
And that has been most of your career, right?
It has been most of my career, yeah. And then when COVID hit, I lost my job. My husband lost his job, so I had gotten a health and wellness certification, and I always sort of did that in the background. It was just a passion, and it's something I live by at home. So when COVID happened and retail basically shut down, and the skincare industry, hair industry, makeup industry shut down, I fell back on that certification and started working in health and wellness at Sprouts.
So you've lived here for 40 years in America. So probably I would say you've become, you've lived more of your life
I feel
here
like
than you have in
here.
England.
I definitely
You grew up
feel
here.
like I grew up
Do you
here.
think you have become an American in any way?
In a lot of ways, I think
Okay.
so. But I feel like I'm still rooted and grounded in some of the not even the traditions, but like the culture of the UK. I think that's still very ingrained in me.
When you say you have become American, and what does it mean? What does becoming American mean to you?
To me, it
Yeah.
means I feel like people are more outgoing here. They're not quite as reserved. I mean, you find people that are reserved, but
Right.
I feel like overall you become outgoing. The culture is different, and it seems like more things to do. But when you grow up in a place and you leave at a young age, your memories of that they become obscure somehow. So.
Like, what do you
Just
mean?
the way
Memory,
I-
like you
well,
remember it was blurry,
you go
right?
back and you think, oh, you remember things a certain way, and then you go back and it's not that way anymore, because it's your memory that's there,
Right,
but
right.
not what it's actually like. So I feel like most of my life I grew up here.
Okay. So you're saying that being outdoorsy, being able to talk to people with less
Yeah,
inhibitions.
I think so. It took, like, initially when I got here, it was harder for people to understand, like, my accent, and I was felt like I was a lot shyer. I think it brought me out of my shell, and
If you see the
it's
bill, let me
just-
know. Okay?
Yeah, it's good. It's fine. So yeah.
So okay, that's good. So that's different. So when you go back to England, people think that you have become American. They can
They
notice
do.
that you're not English anymore in some
They
ways.
feel like I'm more American
Oh, wow.
than English, and people here think I'm English
So it's,
and not American.
Wow.
And
So you're not English here. You're not
but
American.
I feel like there's a language. There was a language barrier initially when I came here. Now more people are exposed to different cultures, different languages, different accents, and it's more welcoming than it was back then.
Like 30 years ago, 40
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah. It was tougher. It was definitely a culture shift.
So, even after living here for 40 years, you find some things to grasp fully, or something annoys you here about the culture, or
Well, I'm
Whether-
kind of a go with the flow type
Okay.
of person anyway, but I find that a lot of things it's either everything's shocking and everything isn't.
Okay.
It's like one extreme to another.
Give me an example. What is shocking?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Just anything in the news. It might be, anything about a celebrity. Maybe is oh well, that's shocking, and everybody judges it, and then on the other hand, nobody cares about it. It's
Right.
just there's two extremes.
So yeah, it is a country of extremes, right?
Yeah, I think so. But then I haven't been back to England on that level where we've lived there, so maybe it's the same way there as
Right,
well.
right.
Because now we go and we visit, so we don't live there anymore. So it's
So
a
the
little bit
England of
different
your
perspective.
memory doesn't exist
I
anymore.
don't think it does.
Right.
Because I always feel like when I go back, it's like, oh, look at that. That's not the same. That's
Right.
not the same. It looks. I remember it to be much bigger.
Right.
And when
What,
you
the
go
place,
back,
London, or which
everything.
Everything's bigger. Okay.
In my mind, it's bigger. But because this is bigger
Right.
here, everything looks smaller when I go back.
Tell me something that you encounter most days in America as a British person, and people like notice about you that they can tell immediately, oh, you sound different or you act different. Like,
Well, it would be the accent, or
right?
certain words that you might say that are different. I mean, most of the time people will even say, "Oh, where are you from? Oh, I love your accent," or they'll mimic my accent.
Oh, really?
They love to mimic my accent, so I probably get that on a daily basis where they'll go, you know, if I go, "Oh, hello," and they go, "Oh, hello," and so they'll mimic the inflection of your voice.
But in a good way, right?
But in a good way. And I just go into like all my accents that I do around the globe and I have fun with it with them. So
we were talking about it the other day. You said when you dress different sometimes, you're proper, and people are like, oh, you come off as too proper or something. Can you talk about it a bit more? Like what did you mean?
Yeah, so well when I'm home, we are always dressed a little bit more like we have like here it's very casual. People come out in their pajamas. I mean, they come out with their slippers and their pajamas, and I find that people in the UK and in Europe in general just have I mean, they have a sense of style here, but I think they wear it out there more than they do here consistently. So, for example, you'll see a lady, she'll always have like tights on, she'll have her gloves on, she'll have her coat on, and she'll have an umbrella with her and her handbag. Whereas here, it's a lot more casual, which is fine too, but
It's
you
a different
can
style,
fall.
right?
It's a different style, and you just don't feel. Sometimes you feel a little bit more pressure there because you have to be dressed and look appropriate.
Right.
Whereas here, it's more casual, and there's not that pressure there too. So.
Do you think people like notice that about you and say, why you always dress so well or ready to go somewhere?
I would say most definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, people will always think that I'm either overdressed or they go, "Oh my God, you look so nice! Oh my God!" Especially when I was working in
I think you've done a good
corporate
mimicry of their accent. Oh my God!
when I was working in a corporate environment, that was definitely the case.
Okay.
It's like, "Oh my gosh, you always look so dressed up."
Right. And what about food? I met an English lady about 10 years ago, and she was visiting, and I asked her, what do you miss about England? She said Indian food.
I think you'll find that my husband will say that
Really?
too.
Okay.
Yeah, we do miss good Indian food.
All right.
And
Although
I'd
Florida-
probably say
right.
chips.
Chips, fish and chips.
I don't eat any meat. I'm completely plant-based now.
Okay.
But if I was eating fish or meat, it would be fish and chips.
Okay. See, but you can find the food that you want most of the time, right? Sometimes you miss.
Yeah, well, we both cook at home a lot, so I
Okay.
cook at home a lot.
Okay.
But to go out, we typically would go for maybe sushi, or we do try to find good Indian food. Yeah, and most of the time we cook at home.
Okay. But America is home now, right?
America's definitely home for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's home for me. Like I said, I raised my daughter here. I have my grandkids here. So
Does your daughter think like is she fully American? She feels like she's American and you are British, and right? Or she has some
She's
connection,
really-
some ties to England.
no, she definitely does.
Okay.
I mean, she's more American,
Okay.
definitely, and the kids are American.
Okay.
But she does have that
Okay.
understanding of
Okay.
life.
Right. Anything else you want to say about the United States? You wish you were different.
That I wish was different.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm really happy here.
Okay.
It was funny when I was growing up, I always would look at American TV shows and I'd always say, I want to live there one day. I want to live there one day. And I remember thinking that in my early teens. And here I am. So for me, I'm completely happy.
Well, thank you very much, Gabby, for your time.
You're
It
welcome.
was a good conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.